Hello everyone, welcome to Milk Carton Crimes, a podcast dedicated to true crime, the paranormals, conspiracies, and all things unknown. In this recording, we're going to talk about the disappearance of Cortney Michelle Lake from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Just a reminder, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and my theories are just that, theories. Right now, the only person of interest in Cortney's case is deceased. There has been no new development in Cortney's case, so please do not go on a witch hunt for anyone involved with Cortney or her disappearance. Cortney Lake went missing from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland on June 7, 2017. She was 24 years old and was last seen wearing a gray and white Helly Hansen jacket with a pink trim, black yoga pants, glasses, a multicolored plaid shirt, and dark gray and white Nike sneakers with bright pink laces. She was also carrying a guest purse and a matching wallet. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5'8" and weighed approximately 110 to 120 pounds. She has light brown hair. The case can get a little bit confusing, so I'm going to explain now the people I'm about to discuss. Cortney Lake is the missing person. Jason Howard is Cortney's ex, who shares a son with Cortney. Lisa Lake is Cortney Lake's mother. Philip Smith is Cortney Lake's ex-boyfriend, and he is a crucial key in finding out what happened to Cortney. And Chris Hoskins is Philip's friend and alibi for the time Cortney disappeared. I'll discuss him and theories a little later into this. A lot of things have led up to Cortney disappearing, so we're going to have to go through a timeline starting in February all the way up to June 7th, the day Cortney disappeared, as well as the investigation surrounding her disappearance and theories that have been tossed around in regards to what may have happened to her. For all of you familiar with Cortney's disappearance, a lot of the information I have gathered is probably just going to be a refresher to you. So, Philip was the most recent ex-boyfriend of Cortney. On 23rd, Philip had a peace bond applied to him forbidding contact with Lisa, Cortney's mom. We aren't really sure if Cortney was included on this peace bond or not. Sometime in April and May, the dates aren't exactly known, Cortney withdraws two separate peace bonds that she had placed on Philip. In May, Philip then goes and applies for a peace bond against Cortney, but by the time the courts had seen the peace bond, she was already missing, so it was dismissed. On April 17th, Lisa calls the police to report her daughter had been assaulted by Philip. Cortney informs the police Philip had assaulted her on the 15th, 2 days prior. It's reported that he punched her in the arm and the stomach when she tried to flee his truck. This happened near the Marine Institute on Ridge Road. Officers noted a bump on her left eyebrow and a cut on her lower inside lip. Just short of a month goes by, and on May 5th, Philip's sister phones police concerned about his well-being. She tells police she believes he's in his black GMC Sierra pickup truck and parked somewhere near RCAF Road, close to St. John's Airport. Officers confirm he is the owner of a truck matching the description Philip's sister gave them, and use a GPS to track his cell phone to his location. When arriving, Philip takes off and a short chase ensues. The police use his cell phone, GPS, again to track him to a pond off of Peacekeepers Way in Conception Bay South. When officers approach again, Philip is trying to self-harm. It's not reported what exactly he was doing to self-harm, but he is taken into custody and held for 4 days in a healthcare facility. However, on May 8th, Philip was released from the facility and submits an application to change the restrictions on him. He requests to be able to legally drive his truck to and from work, and a judge does grant him this. He also requests to have contact with Cortney again, saying that he wants to continue the relationship with her and that they're very much in love. The judge flat out denies this request. On May 12th and 13th, Cortney publicly tags new boyfriend Ryan Tobin on Facebook for the first time, a mere 4 days after Philip was telling the court that he and Cortney still loved each other, so it's easy to assume that Philip is pretty pissed off about that. Which leads to May 15th. Cortney contacts the police and says Philip, her ex, had sent intimate photos of her on the 13th without her consent through Facebook to her current boyfriend Ryan. On June 5th, 2 days before Cortney's disappearance, Philip calls Cortney's cell phone and home phone a total of 33 times. Cortney again calls the police and reports this. While officers are on their way to her home, she calls again. Philip had just passed her house in his black truck. Police locate him close to her residence and arrest him and take him into custody. So, it starts to seem like this man might finally be getting the message, right? He sits in a jail for 2 days, and finally, on June 7th, Philip goes to court and pleads guilty to assaulting Cortney on April 15th. The driving infractions from May 5th, distributing her intimate photos without consent, contacting and calling and going to her home on June 5th. Philip's lawyers state that Philip is remorseful for these actions and said he was in an unhealthy relationship and he intends to follow the conditions and have no further contact with Miss Lake. At 4 p.m., he leaves the court free to go home. He got his slap on the wrist. He knows he has to stay away from Cortney and her family. He is driven by a third party to his truck, which is located in Mount Pearl near Cortney's residence because that's where the police had found him 2 days prior. I know the timeline gets a little messy here, but please bear with me. From 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Philip arrives at his house on Alice Drive. From 6:30 to 7 p.m., Philip is seen visiting his neighbor. At some point between 5 p.m. and 6:30 p.m., Cortney called Philip and demanded her Christmas decorations back. Another time, around 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., Philip calls Cortney 2 times. This conversation was overheard by Jason, her son's father. Philip wanted Cortney to come to his house with him to get her decorations. It's noted that at some point between 5:15 to 7 p.m., Philip drives by Lisa Lake's home, but Cortney's mother was getting ready for a barbecue, so he kept driving. He is noted to have called their landline between 2 and 4 times, possibly from an unknown number, because if they had recognized his number, Lisa probably would have reported it to the police. So, at 7:30 p.m., Cortney arrives home. Her mom has already gone to the barbecue. Cortney calls her mom, and her mom tells her that, I'll bring you home a plate of food, to which Cortney responds happily that she's very hungry. From 7:50 to 7:52, Cortney is seen walking away from her Wellington Crescent residence. At 7:54 p.m., she is recorded getting into Philip Smith's truck. An interesting side note is that Philip never calls Cortney's house or her cell phone again after this. Now let's dive into the investigation part of this case. The police start up the investigation upon being notified of Cortney's disappearance. To kick off their search, they interviewed the missing woman's friends and family, including Jason, her son's father, who allowed forensic investigators to search his vehicle. After being cleared as a suspect, he made a public plea for anyone with information to come forward. But at the beginning of her investigation, Jason had made several petty statuses about Cortney, saying she isn't missing and that she's just on a bender somewhere. He has since deleted those posts and have asked people if they've seen anything to make contact with the proper authorities. From the other interviews with those closest to Cortney, investigators were able to confirm her whereabouts on June 7th up until she was dropped off at her residence. And to help spread the word about Cortney's disappearance, her friends and family have run a social media campaign using the hashtag #HelpFindCourtney. Police reviewed Cortney's social media, but it did not reveal anything that could lead to her being found. Long after she disappears, investigators search Alice Drive, the street Philip Smith lived on. They asked anyone if they had seen Cortney since her disappearance, but no one has seen her in around 3 weeks, despite having seen her numerous times in the months prior. Properties in the area were also searched, but nothing of value was found. To help come up with leads, pictures from security footage from Esso gas station on Elizabeth Avenue in St. John's were released, showing Cortney purchasing items a few hours before her disappearance. This was while she was with Jason and her son earlier in the day for his swimming lessons. June 27th, a woman walking along a trail in Mount Pearl, some 600 meters from Cortney's residence, came across jewelry and a pair of broken earrings. She contacted the police, but the items were later confirmed to not belong to the missing woman. That same day, police had seen Philip Smith drinking at Jack Astor's on Harbor Drive in St. John's, and he was later seen purchasing beer at Irving on Torbay Road. As he wasn't allowed to enter a place that served alcohol at the time, he was arrested and placed under police custody. On June 28th, investigators armed with a search warrant converged on the 2-unit property Smith and his father owned. While they couldn't confirm at the time if the search was connected to Cortney's disappearance, they did maintain a watch on the house by setting up a tent in the backyard. They ended up removing a number of items from the property, including Smith's truck, which was later returned to him. On June 30th, the police announced that they had classified Cortney's disappearance as a homicide and, as a result, were concerned for her safety and had referred to the Major Crimes Unit. They also shared that they identified more than one person of interest. During this press conference, they released residential security footage which showed Cortney leaving her home on Wellington Crescent at 7:52 p.m. on June 7th and walking towards the area of Lindbergh Crescent and Ruth Avenue. At 7:54 p.m., a footage showed her walking down the street and when a black GMC Sierra pickup truck with a Browning camouflage deer decal on the passenger side back window pulled up beside her. After she entered the passenger vehicle, the truck swung back around and drove in the opposite direction. The police shared what they believe Cortney was taken to a secluded, wooded, less traveled area a short distance between where she was picked up. They did search in multiple locations, but alas found nothing related to her disappearance. That was until during a search of Patty's Pond on July 2nd, volunteer search came across an item that was later confirmed to belong to Cortney. It was discovered near Torbay Pond by the Irving Station west of St. John's. This prompted police to conduct a ground and water search of the area later in the day into July 3rd. Consisting of the RNC and the Rover's Ground Search and Rescue, it saw the shoreline scoured and the bottom of Torbay's Man's Pond dragged. After Cortney's disappearance, Philip Smith continued to get in trouble with the law. He was later accused of committing more crimes on the day that Cortney was last seen, including driving while disqualified and breaching a peace order in relation to Lisa Lake. On August 9th, he pleaded guilty to breaching the condition meant to keep him away from Cortney, admitting he picked her up from Missioner Avenue on the night she went missing. However, he didn't reveal where they went or where he last saw her. He also pled guilty to the drinking while prohibited charge relating back to his June 27th arrest. Because of those charges, he was sentenced to 90 days in custody. With time served, he was only due to serve 24 days. While on the 90-day sentence was agreed upon by both the Crown and the defense, Philip was told by the judge that he would have received a longer sentence if not for the previous agreed-on terms. He was released on August 24th after 16 days on good behavior and was given a 1-year driving prohibition. In the fall of 2017, Philip Smith was relieved of his military duties due to his criminal convictions. These 8 years after he enrolled in the Army Primary Reserves. While he hadn't served on any overseas missions, at the time he was relieved he was a corporal and primary reservist for the 37 Combat Engineer Regiment in St. John's. During this time, an administrative review took place to determine what next course of action would be and whether he should officially be discharged from the military. Cortney's case would grow colder and colder because on October 31st, Philip called his family saying he was going to kill himself. Concerned, they contacted the authorities who put searchers on standby an hour away from where Philip Smith had a cabin. At 3 a.m. on November 1st, a sniffer dog located his body, although police wouldn't initially confirm nor deny suicide, only saying they were investigating a sudden death in the area and that there was no risk to the public. Philip Smith's death prompted investigators to conduct a thorough search of the beach. Joined by rovers, the Avalon North Wolverines, and Central Avalon Search and Rescue teams, they searched for evidence connected to Cortney's disappearance but came up empty. In the weeks leading to his death, the RNC had a difficult time keeping tabs on him. When questioned, a friend would say he seen the deceased at St. John's hours before his death. While noting there was nothing different about his behavior at his time, he did share that Smith had been feeling troubled all year. Upon learning of Philip Smith's death, the Lake family did offer their condolences to the Smith family. Shortly after his death, the police major crime unit released new images of Philip Smith and his truck dated June 8th, which shown him at a local Ultramar gas station. They did this in hopes that someone would remember seeing him or have any relevant dashcam footage. In December, police received new information about Cortney, which prompted them to conduct a 2-day search of the abandoned 100-acre Smallwood farm near where Philip died, just off the route of 201 exit from the Trans-Canada Highway. 5 search and rescue teams consisting of 122 people moved shoulder to shoulder across the farm's fields, forests, and buildings. The search lasted 5 days, but nothing was uncovered. The police have stated that Cortney's cell phone hasn't been used since her disappearance, and her bank account has been left untouched. As well, she has not been active on social media. As of 2019, the search efforts for Cortney have gone cold. Despite both officials and over 100 conducted by volunteer, nothing of value has been found and no arrests have been made. Police continue to conduct interviews and gather new information in relation to the case and say they've received thousands of tips from the public. They've also shared that they've reviewed hours of security and dashcam footage. Cortney's family feels someone in the community has information about this case, and they keep in contact consistently with the police. So let's move on to the theories. The only theory that the police believe in this case is that Cortney was murdered by her ex-boyfriend Philip Smith. This is held by both the RNC and the Lake family. While he was never publicly named as a person of interest in the early days of the investigation, after his death the authorities shared that he had been their only suspect. Those involved in the investigation believe Cortney to be deceased. Another theory that has been floating around the web is that Cortney and Philip stole drugs, or Cortney stole drugs from Philip so she could sell them. It is rumored that Philip was a coke dealer and Cortney's choice of drugs were perks, so she stole a large amount of coke to trade for pills. Had this happened, it would explain why he called her 33 times, possibly trying to get the money or drugs back before he got himself in more trouble. It's just a motive, but again, it's unlikely. Another theory is that Philip didn't act alone. It's widely speculated that Philip's alibi, Chris Hoskin, had something to do with their disappearance as well. There were reports that Chris and Philip were having a fire a few days after Cortney disappeared. This could be to destroy any evidence linking them to her. Another theory is that her body had been moved several times, and that her belongings were spread out purposefully to distract police and searchers from discovering her true location. Another theory is that Cortney accidentally overdosed with Philip, and possibly Chris. To try to protect themselves, or just him, he or they disposed of her body. Whether or not Philip committed suicide over guilt, grief, or the police closing in on him, we will never know, unfortunately. At the end of the day, it's important we keep sharing Cortney's photo and, Philip's photo from the security footage so that if someone does know something, they can come forward. It is never too late to come forward with information. This family deserves justice and closure at the end of the day. So I want to thank you all for listening into my podcast today. This has been Maddie with Milk Carton Crimes, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks!